Here's a strange little fact about a cattle drive. The most powerful man in the whole outfit, the trail boss, the one everybody answers to, is the one man who doesn't get to choose where he sleeps. He'll ride out ahead of everyone alone for hours. He'll look at a dozen different patches of ground and turn most of them down, and when he finally points and says, "This is where we stop tonight," he's not picking a place for himself. He's barely thinking about himself at all. So who is he picking it for? That's the real question, because somebody or something is choosing that ground. And once you see who, the whole camp stops looking like a place people slept and starts looking like a machine that happened to have people in it. Let's go find out who was really in charge. Start with what he's hunting for out there, hours ahead of the herd. Two things before anything else: water and grass. Not a nice view, not flat, dry ground to lie on. Water and grass in that order, because he's got a few thousand cattle coming up behind him, and every one of them has to drink and eat before dark or the night falls apart. And here's the first thing that surprises people. A trail outfit usually stopped early. The herd might only make a dozen or so miles in a day, and they'd often quit around 5 in the evening while there was still plenty of light left to travel by. That looks lazy until you understand what those last couple of hours were for. They weren't for resting the men. They were for the cattle to spread out, drink their fill, and graze until they were heavy and tired and ready to lie down. Because a full tired herd beds down quiet and stays down. A hungry, thirsty herd stands up all night, milling and complaining and looking for trouble. So the trail boss stopped early on purpose to buy the herd a calm night. The men's evening was just a side effect of the cattle's dinner. Now water. You'd think water is the easy part, the comfort, the good news of the campsite. It's the opposite. Water was the first thing he needed, and one of the most dangerous things out there. And a huge part of his job was telling good water from water that would kill, because not all of it was safe to drink. Out on the dry plains, there were holes and crossings so loaded with alkali that the water was practically poison. Stock drank it and died. At some of the worst rivers, thirst-crazed cattle would rush a bright pool of alkali water and drink themselves dead where they stood. Then there was the ground under the water. Some rivers ran over quicksand that gripped like a vise and pulled cattle, horses, even whole wagons down into it. And the big flooded crossings were their own kind of killer. At some of those river crossings, more men drowned than died on all the other rivers combined. And the last danger was the simplest: no water at all. In a dry year, a hole the boss was counting on might be nothing but cracked mud when he got there, and a thirsty herd with nowhere to drink is a disaster with legs. So when he found water, he wasn't finding comfort. He was making a judgment call. Will this poison them? Will it bog them? Will it bog them, or will it hold? Get that one wrong, and the campsite was already a catastrophe before anyone unrolled a bed. All right, he's found his water and his grass. Now watch where everything goes, because this is the part that gives the whole thing away. The cattle get bedded down first on open ground, and that open ground matters more than it looks. You do not bed a nervous herd up against timber, or brush, or a cut bank, or the lip of a ravine, because if something spooks them in the night, and something always might. A herd needs somewhere to run that won't kill it. Out on the open flat, a scare is just a scare. They run, they circle, they settle. Run that same panicked herd into a thicket or over a cut bank in the dark, and you've got dead and crippled animals and maybe dead men. So room to run wasn't a luxury. It was a safety feature, chosen on purpose. Then the horses. An outfit didn't travel on one horse per man. It needed a whole herd of spare horses, several for every rider, so a cowboy could switch to a fresh mount through the day. That horse herd had its own name, the remuda, and its own keeper, usually the youngest hand in the outfit, whose whole job was minding them. At camp, they rig a corral in about a minute flat. Run a rope from the back wheel of the wagon, another from the tip of the wagon tongue, out to a couple of stakes, and there's your pen. A little triangle of rope that a trained horse won't push through. And every man kept one dependable horse, his night horse, staked or hobbled right by his bed, saddled and ready, so that if the herd moved in the dark, he wasn't hunting a mount. He was already on one. Now stop and count what we've placed. We've placed the water, we've placed the grass, we've placed the cattle, with room to run. We've placed the spare horses and the corral, and every man's night horse. Notice who we haven't placed yet. The men, the people. Every single decision so far has been made for an animal, and the humans are still standing around holding their bedrolls, waiting to find out where there's a gap. That's the flip. That's the whole thing, right there. On a trail drive, the men were the most flexible part of the machine, the part you could put anywhere, because the part that actually needed careful placement was everything with four legs. The cowboys slept in the leftover space, and the thing they slept around was the wagon. The chuckwagon was the heart of the camp. The fire, the food, the water barrel, the place the bedrolls got stacked, the anchor for that rope corral. Men bedded down near it, not scattered off across the dark, close enough to reach a horse fast if the night went wrong. But the wagon did one more job, and it's my favorite detail in all of this. Out on the open plains, there were no landmarks, no mountain, no road, no line of trees to tell you which way was north when the sun came up. So every night, the last thing the cook did before he turned in was find the North Star and point the tongue of the wagon straight at it. That was it. That was the compass. In the morning, the trail boss would walk out, look at which way the wagon tongue was lying, and know exactly which direction to push the herd. The camp wasn't just a place to spend the night. It was already aimed at tomorrow before anyone fell asleep. Then the sun goes down and the machine shifts into its night shape. Nobody guarded that herd all night by staying awake. You'd be useless by morning. Instead, the dark got cut into watches, usually a couple of hours each. A first guard, a middle guard, a morning guard, split up by however many hands the outfit had. And at any hour, two riders were out there walking their horses slow around the bedded cattle in opposite directions, passing each other in the dark. And they sang, not because it was romantic, because a steady human voice was a wall of sound. It smoothed over the little sudden noises, a horse shaking itself, a coyote, a shifting hoof, the small sharp sounds that could otherwise put a jumpy herd on its feet all at once. So the night camp was really two things at the same time. Most of the men asleep on the ground by the wagon. Except they weren't really off duty, they were parked. Night horse waiting, one bad noise away from being up and mounted. And two men always awake, circling, singing, holding the quiet together, and handing it off every couple of hours to the next pair of tired eyes. And now you can see exactly why the campsite carried so much weight, because get any piece of it wrong and the next day pays for it. Bad water and you got sick or dying stock by morning. Thin grass, or a herd that didn't get to drink, and they never settle. They mill all night and you're all exhausted and they're jumpier than ever at dawn. Bad ground, timber, or a cut bank too close and an ordinary 2 o'clock scare turns into scattered, broken cattle spread over miles of country you now have to go find. And a camp that wasn't aimed right just cost you time and direction in the morning, which is exactly what that wagon tongue was there to prevent. Because here's the cold arithmetic underneath all of it. A herd is only worth money when it's delivered on time in one piece. A single bad campsite could cost an outfit cattle, days, and real money. The trail boss wasn't being fussy. He was protecting the entire drive, one patch of ground at a time. So, go back to the question we started with. Who chose where the cowboys slept, not the cowboys? And in the way that actually mattered. Not even the trail boss. Not really. He was just reading what the herd needed and finding the ground that could give it. The water chose it. The grass chose it. A few thousand nervous animals that had to drink and eat and lie down somewhere they wouldn't kill themselves. Chose it. The horses and the wagon and the two riders who had to circle the whole thing in the dark chose it. And the men came last and slept wherever all of that left a little room. That's the strange, quiet truth of a trail camp. It looks like a place people pick to sleep. It was really a machine for keeping a few thousand animals alive through one more night and pointed at one more morning. The cowboys didn't choose the campsite for themselves, the herd chose it. They just lay down inside the choice. That's all for today. I'll see you in the next one.